Now, micronutrients during pregnancy. I'm going to be honest and say that before I became pregnant, I was very much like the calories in, calories out, because I'm still that. That's a very important element of getting our clients' results. But as a 20-something-year-old trainer, I didn't pay too much attention to micronutrients. I kind of felt that they were a little bit boring, and I really felt like there wasn't anything practical that I could do with them. Like, yes, I knew that these things were important, but how do I bring that into my coaching when I've got a million other things that I'm trying to work with my client? The main thing that we mostly do as coaches is just trying to get them to be adherent to the targets given to them, and then trying to throw in all these other things can complicate it, right? But this is the one time that I want you guys to prioritize looking at the quality of this client's diet. It is so important. Now, this is a list of some of the important vitamins and minerals, and I would encourage you guys to take a screenshot of this or make sure that you come back to this, because this is extremely important. So certain micronutrients and minerals have a massive impact on the baby, especially their brain development. So folic acid alone, if a woman is not consuming enough folic acid either through their diet or through supplementation, it significantly increases the risk of their baby developing neurological disorders and conditions like spina bifida, which are lifelong conditions that baby and that mum and that child and that adult will have to deal with. So it's really important to make sure that we put calories and macros and everything aside and look at how do we support this client in getting enough of these things. Now, I don't want you guys to feel overwhelmed when you look at this, because often I feel overwhelmed. I have felt overwhelmed when I looked at this. And I personally studied nutrition at a university level, and we learned all about the RDIs and all of these things. And for me, it just felt like a bunch of numbers that I would never remember. When we look at the difference between a non-pregnant person and a pregnant person, it's very much the same when we're kind of looking at the recommendations in terms of the RDI. There are some things that are higher. There are some things that are the same. So like folic acid is higher, but when we look at calcium recommendations, they are the same as non-pregnant individuals. If a person is consuming a well-balanced diet where they're getting a decent amount of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, protein, for the most part, they'll be meeting these guidelines. But as coaches, we know that some people's diets aren't that great, don't we? And that there's not a lot of whole foods in there. And I want to give you a practical way that you can take this into your coaching without it just feeling like a whole bunch of numbers you don't do anything with, okay? So first, take a screenshot of this, and then we'll go through how we're going to do that. Yeah, I didn't put a slide in there. Has anybody heard of Chronometer? Yes. Does anybody use Chronometer? Yep, cool, amazing. Chronometer is a tracking platform like MyFitnessPal or like Carbon, but the key difference with Chronometer is that it reports your micronutrient and mineral intake as well as your calories and your macros, which I think is phenomenal, okay? So one thing that I get my clients to do when I am working with them and they're willing to track, and that's a conversation that you have to have with them, is I move them, even if it's for 2 weeks, from whatever platform they're using to Chronometer. And I ask them, I don't want you to change anything about what you would usually do throughout your day. I don't want you to try and be good or achieve any outcome. I want you to track what you're usually doing in Chronometer. And then what I ask them to do is I ask them to pull the data, which it's very user-friendly, and show me without supplementation, what are they reaching and where are the gaps. One thing you will have to get your clients to do is to add choline to their list. Choline is a newer mineral that we are learning more about. And when I say newer, it was, back in the 1990s, but it takes a really long time for things to kind of come into mainstream advice, right? But choline is very important in similar ways to folic acid. it doesn't always list it on Chronometer unless your client puts it on their list of report. Then as the coach, when your client gives you this, I want you to have a look at where are they falling short, right? Because the truth is that we can get all of this from our diet. We can. And I always say, let's lead with a diet first approach, because we know that with supplements, the regulation of them isn't great unless they're third party tested. Sometimes they have dosages far higher than the recommended amounts or not enough at all. And so if we have room to improve this through diet, that's where we make those recommendations to our clients. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. Then we lead with okay, if we're not able to achieve these targets through diet alone, then we need to consider supplementation. And that's where prenatal supplements come into the picture. I would recommend all women to be taking a prenatal supplement, especially in the first trimester, when most women are going to experience some level of nausea, some vomiting, but food aversions. I cannot even explain how the smell of meat made me feel in both of my pregnancies. I couldn't eat it. Vegetables, I couldn't eat it. It would make me vomit. And so it's really easy to just say, well, it's good for you, consume it. What we need to do as coaches is, if that client can only take in cheese and crackers or Wheat Bix or cereal in their first trimester, is we need to encourage them to get calories where they can and try our best to improve the quality of where those calories are coming from. But let's consider the supplement, the insurance policy, where they are not meeting their recommended amounts of micronutrients and minerals. The prenatal will cover it. I would love to go through in a separate session with you guys how to choose a prenatal supplement. And one thing that we actually haven't announced yet is that we are launching a pre and postnatal program through Clean Health. So it's going to be nutrition and training, where we go into a lot of these things in depth, like choosing how to choose a prenatal supplement for your client, because they're not all one in the same, and not all clients require the same prenatal vitamin. And I'm going to tell you the main reason why. So when we look at prenatal vitamins and you compare a number of different ones, you will notice different dosages of certain minerals. You will notice that some prenatals don't include certain things where others do. Some include a higher amount, some include a smaller amount. And that is because certain minerals compete with the absorption of other minerals or vitamins. And I'll give you an example. Iron competes with the absorption of calcium and zinc. So if your client has a prenatal vitamin that contains iron, but they're not getting enough calcium or zinc, that could potentially be a problem. And if your client doesn't have anemia, or they don't have low levels of iron, but they're experiencing a lot of constipation or a lot of nausea from their prenatal, it could be because of the iron. And so what we need to do as coaches, and don't let this overwhelm you guys, because this is just second nature to me now. It's very easy. I take the data from Chronometer, I see what they're deficient in, I look at their prenatal, and I think, is there a better way that we can be doing this? And that is super powerful for you as the coach, because they're not going to get that anywhere else. And that level of attention to detail with these clients will impress them, and they will feel safe with you if you're able to do that.